Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brian Bjorn, and I'm the Patient Safety Manager at Laerdal. I'm very excited to welcome you to this webinar on improving patient safety through simulation. We are honored today to have guest speakers from Advocate Health who will share their experiences and insights with us. At Laerdal, we have a very ambitious aim of helping save 1 million lives every year by 2030. We believe that simulation is a key strategy to achieving this mission by enabling safer and more effective healthcare practices. And it's our hope that this webinar will inspire you to explore how simulation can help you enhance patient safety in your own settings. Before getting started, I just want to make a few housekeeping announcements. We are recording the webinar, and we will make the recording available to everyone who is here today. You are all muted, but we do encourage you to put comments in the chat, questions, share your experience. We want this to be as lively as possible, and we will also try to answer all your questions during the webinar. So once again, thank you for joining us today. I'm going to hand it over to our first speaker, Kelly Sava.
Thank you so much for joining us. We are really excited to be able to share this presentation with you today. My name is Kelly Sava. I am the Associate Vice President for Simulation at Advocate Health. I've been with the organization since 2001 and in this role since 2014. I would like to let our team introduce themselves later on as they are coming on camera. For now, we do not have any relevant disclosures or financial relationships. As I said, I'm joined by members of our simulation and patient safety teams, and they will all be introducing themselves as they speak. As we talk today about our simulation and safety journey, I would like to take a moment to give you some context about our organization. You'll see on this slide that Advocate Health is a large healthcare system, 150,000 teammates, over 21,000 physicians, and 67 hospitals. This organization was formed in December of 2022 by the strategic partnership of Chicago-Milwaukee-based Advocate Aurora Health and Charlotte-based Atrium Health. For the purposes of today's conversation, we're going to be discussing the work that has been done at Advocate Aurora Health. This was a 27-hospital system spanning Illinois and Wisconsin, which we now refer to as our Midwest region. You can see our statistics on the bottom left of this slide. I am now going to turn it over to Elsie Lindgren, our Vice President of Patient Safety and High Reliability for Advocate Health.
Thank you, Kelly, for that introduction. Again, my name is Elsie Lindgren. I am the Vice President of Patient Safety and High Reliability. Back in 2008, I began working as a site safety leader. My responsibilities were both proactive and reactive. Proactive by teaching people about medical errors, bringing light to human fallibility, and teaching folks about the error prevention tools that could help prevent these events from happening in the first place. Reactive in the sense that when we had a bad patient outcome, I would investigate that event by reviewing records, conducting interviews, and looking for confirmatory evidence that would help me figure out the system issues that led to these medical errors. And I did this all while ensuring the patients and their families are protected from immediate and future harm, providing a safe space for teammates involved, and ensuring that we are fostering a just culture. After a few years of being in this role, I had an event in which we had a bad outcome with one of our moms who had just delivered a baby. We took care of patients with high-risk pregnancies, and in this case, we had a 49-year-old mom who gave birth for the first time after suffering 7 miscarriages over the years. Our patient underwent a scheduled C-section. However, postoperatively, she began to hemorrhage and was transferred to the surgical intensive care unit. She coded multiple times, but we couldn't save her. We then conducted our cause analysis and identified many opportunities for improvement, with the majority being related to patient monitoring and coordination of care. I had spent the previous 2 years partnering with my boss at the time, who was the administrator of patient safety for our healthcare system, to figure out a long-term sustainable solution to eradicate harm from our organization. We brought safety leaders, operational leaders, presidents, frontline teammates, and others who were safety-minded together to do a deep dive on our current state, look at best practices, and develop a formal strategic plan to create the culture to support the work, teach leaders how to lead to safety, and empower frontline teammates to fix issues and set them up to fail. At the same time, I was completing the IHI Fellowship and for 2 years participated in the IHI National Patient Safety Foundation simulation team. I knew simulation had to be specifically called out in our action plans, so one of the major strategic elements was to establish a culture that appropriately resources effective evidence-based adult learning through simulation. At a high level, the plan involved establishing a system steering team to design advocates' approach to implementing a system-wide simulation program. This included visiting healthcare organizations with successful simulation programs in place, conducting a detailed analysis of the current state of simulation within Advocate Healthcare, and developing a comprehensive model for simulation. The proposed models encompassed in situ simulation capabilities, on-site simulation labs at hospitals, or centralized simulation labs coordinating with non-acute sites. Additionally, the plan involved creating a leadership structure for oversight, establishing a simulation team to coordinate activities across the organization, and aligning simulation programs' priorities with learning opportunities identified through cause analysis and safety event reporting. And that was a huge must-have. Our goal was to enhance the integration of simulation methodologies throughout Advocate Healthcare to improve operational efficiency and learning outcomes with the ultimate purpose of eliminating harm. When we experienced our serious safety event related to patient monitoring and care coordination, it was clear that simulation would be exactly what we needed to fix the issues we identified. Since we didn't have the lab on site yet, we included in situ simulation throughout the root cause analysis process. In order to understand exactly how our processes broke down, for instance, in initiating the massive transfusion protocol, I worked with my sim partner to recreate what occurred and identified the vulnerabilities in that process. We were able to clearly see differences between what everyone thought happened and what actually happened. This helped the RCA team see the value of simulation, and we then added simulation for almost every action item. We designed a designated code team to attend massive transfusion codes, and we simmed it. We automated communication with the blood bank to initiate blood product release, and we simmed it. We then designed team-based simulations on OB RRTs and on the OB hemorrhage protocol, which continues to be conducted on every shift on a quarterly basis. This feedback was amazing. We knew having a simulation program built with the patient safety DNA would be a game changer. Simulation has become part of the culture, and we have not had another maternal death at this site since. I'm going to turn it over to Dakira to discuss how the program started.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dakira Gutierrez. I'm the manager for system simulation, and I oversee programming and operations at 5 of our hospital-based simulation centers. I started with the organization in 2005 and have been with the simulation team since 2015. So, with patient safety and team member training as our parents, our simulation program was born. In our infancy, our small team tried to meet with any stakeholder that would take a meeting with us to discuss the possibility of simulation. There was a good amount of questions, some resistance, but mostly a lot of curiosity about what this modality could really offer busy clinical units. We asked questions about gaps, safety concerns, where leaders and educators saw opportunities, and what made them nervous. The low-hanging fruit an easy sell was in situ macotes. This was what everybody thought simulation was anyway, so why not start there? So we did. We found simulators and sim supporters scattered throughout the 9-hospital system, hiding in closets, offices, even administration. We started doing in situ simulations and gaining buy-in from educators, physicians, frontline clinicians, and they started to open up to us about the struggles, the barriers that they faced, and the systems that stood in their way from actually caring for their patients. It was really good discussion. It was great information. It was vital perspectives. But what were we, the SIM team, with a system team of 3 at the time, running from site to site, pulling mannequins out of closets with no real influence? What were we going to do about it? We knew we needed to raise up these issues and concerns. What if this was a real patient? What if this was one of our family members? It struck us that these were really near-miss events and really unsafe conditions lurking in our patient units. These were real patient safety concerns, and we had to treat them as such. So we started to work on a way to document and escalate these concerns while also partnering with safety. So in late 2015, we created our first after action report, or AAR, and met with unit stakeholders, site leadership, safety leaders, and anyone that would take our invitation to share our findings. Early on, we identified latent safety threats as anything that could cause patient harm. Our report highlighted strengths, opportunities for improvement, LSTs, and suggested interventions. We quickly found that while the reports were gaining attention and getting leaders to look at the LSTs we raised, we needed to find a language and communication strategy that was more familiar to our leaders and that aligned with our organization's safety journey. We aligned our description and classification of LSTs to match what unit leaders were familiar with in our safety event reporting system, but still applied to simulation. Some of our early success came when a brave and transparent unit leader shared the findings of an after-action report during a daily site safety huddle. An issue that had been identified by frontline team members but never resolved was suddenly discussed by high-level leaders and action items put into place before the end of the meeting. The next time I arrived to do an in situ medical code at that site, the unit came to me prior to the sim and said, "We've got LSTs for you to put in your report." I said, "We haven't even done the sim yet. How do you know there's LSTs?" They replied, "We know we have LSTs because we see it every day. We've raised up these concerns, but nothing really happened. We don't want this to actually have to impact a patient for improvements to be made. And when you put things in your report, the leadership paid attention." This was like finding a pot of gold in our simulation and patient safety collaboration journey. And as we grew and really planted roots in patient safety, we found so many opportunities to learn from each other, align our processes, and support each other to improve patient safety. And almost 10 years later, merged organizations, multiple sim center builds, and growth of our team by tenfold, we continue to hold firm to the alignment with patient safety as a part of our core mission and know that we can only be better together.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Kari Congini. I'm a systems simulation education specialist at Advocate Health Midwest Region. My background is nursing, and I have been in this role since 2015. And so as we continue to uncover, discover, and share LSTs, as Dakira mentioned, our work in this area really grew. Pockets of wins were being shared in safety huddles and our own simulation team meetings. Some of our sites were starting to do safety work more regularly, and it was really exciting to see frontline team members engage in simulation, sharing their insights and perspectives about what was working well, what could be improved, and ideas on possible solutions. We realized how important this was to support our organization's goal to optimize structures and processes, learning outcomes, and ultimately to keep our patients safe from harm. At this point, it just made sense for our teams to formalize a more intentional partnership. And so simulation and patient safety met to identify a goal and what this partnership should look like. Ultimately, we agreed the overall goal would be to utilize simulation to support safety activities and improve high reliability efforts. We further identified different ways we could partner, meet regularly, and otherwise support each other's work. The result was a defined partnership that would provide structure and guidance to use simulation to promote patient safety. So whether you're a large healthcare organization with multiple sites or a standalone medical center, this framework can absolutely be adapted to meet your unique needs. To sum up, the core pieces of this framework includes an intentional partnership, a regular meeting cadence, and collaboration to use simulation to support patient safety. So how can simulation and patient safety support each other? There are many ways we can do this. The first is simply to connect with each other. Our site and system teams meet regularly, and these meetings may be held weekly, monthly, or quarterly. The agenda typically includes updates from patient safety on recent events or other concerns, and updates from our team on LSTs identified during SIM. This may lead to further discussion about how simulation might help. For example, a devastating complication occurred at one of our sites due to an incorrectly placed central line. Patient safety partnered with our team to implement a central line simulation to identify gaps and provide deliberate practice for a focus group of attending physicians. Other meeting considerations may include larger groups or committee meetings. For example, our medical director of simulation sits on our system patient safety core team meetings, representing simulation and reporting off as needed. Our educators may attend daily or weekly safety huddles or monthly safety committee meetings. We also support each other's professional week. Patient Safety Week is in March and Healthcare Simulation Week is in September. And so we partnered to offer fun activities such as escape rooms, room of errors, CPR contests, or other novel ideas. An important way we partner is to conduct patient safety simulation activities. Simulation is used across our organization with a focus on patient safety and can do this prospectively, such as process or space testing or probing activities, or retrospectively, such as participating in a root cause analysis or apparent cause analysis. In one situation, the patient safety manager wanted to test the usability of an updated rapid sequence intubation kit following a safety event to see if it would have the effect that was intended. An interdisciplinary simulation was done, allowing frontline teammates to use the new kit in an emergent airway scenario and provide feedback on its use in the debriefing. The result was a new kit that would ideally help prevent the event from happening again in the future. And upon follow-up months later, the safety leader stated the kit no longer seems to be an issue and the event has not recurred. All of the examples I've shared and others have shared are huge wins and is a testament to the power of simulation and patient safety to partner and really make a difference. We'll talk more about these kinds of activities in a moment. For the next one, escalating LSTs in the moment, when we do simulations in situ or in the actual environment, we have the opportunity to see LSTs in the clinical area in real time. If we identify any LSTs that could cause immediate harm, we escalate them immediately by notifying the manager, the safety leader, and then entering them into the actual safety event reporting system. So an example of this involved a simulation conducted in the clinical environment. We did an emergency all call where everyone responded. It was noted in the debriefing that there was a delay in the physicians responding because the overhead was not heard in the provider lounge. It was identified then that the speakers had been turned all the way down and were subsequently turned up to the appropriate level. And finally, as Dakira mentioned, we report identified LSTs during an after action report, which is shared with the key department unit leaders, stakeholders, and safety leaders across the site. Once shared, the site determines next steps to address or mitigate the LSTs. That information can also help optimize structures and processes as well as help to inform targeted learning. Additionally, we track and trend our LSTs in a data bank using that adapted taxonomy to have a common language for everyone to understand how they're categorized. And so now I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Hannah Watts, who will be talking more in depth about translational simulation and the kinds of activities we do in our organization.
Thank you, Kari, and hello, everybody. My name is Hannah Watts. I'm the Medical Director for System Simulation for Advocate Health in the Midwest region and a practicing emergency physician. I've been part of the simulation program since 2016 and with the organization since 2006. Through our in situ simulation program and our in-lab testing, we're able to use translational simulation to improve the use of our technology, our spaces, and our processes to optimize both our team member and our patient's experience. Our well-established relationship with patient safety allows us a mechanism for bidirectional feedback and helps guide the work we do in this space. So often, the work our teammates are asked to do is designed at a table or in a meeting without any frontline feedback or experience. Simulation allows us an opportunity to gather frontline feedback and test a process or space where it occurs. We often joke that we want to break our processes to ultimately improve them. Our work in translational sim occurs in spaces across our organization, from our smallest clinics to our largest hospital sites. We use translational simulation for a diverse body of work in simulation. However, it often includes process improvement and space testing within the actual environment or in situ. This work is really two-pronged. We have regular in situ programming, as many of my colleagues has mentioned, and we work in other areas as needed or a consult-based service. Our regular in situ programming is essential for us to proactively test our embedded processes at all our sites. These are primarily mock emergencies, things like medical alerts or code blues, strokes, postpartum hemorrhage, and malignant hyperthermia, and ensure that these processes are working as anticipated and identifies any latent safety threats. This work has identified, as Kari mentioned, broken speakers or turned down speakers, missing medications, or expired equipment and supplies. We've had limited badge access for crucial teammates to come to important areas, and it's inspired more specific projects, such as a huge overhaul of our response to malignant hyperthermia, a rare and life-threatening emergency from anesthetics. Emergent latent safety threats, like Kari mentioned, are identified by these programs, or findings that could lead to immediate patient harm are immediately escalated to patient safety. Other latent safety threats that we find are reported as appropriate to stakeholders, and we also put them in our after-action reports, which are powerful tools to help everyone in the organization understand what happened in the simulation, and really is a document that's owned not only by simulation, but by our teams. We've also built this partnership by embedding ourselves in the PDSA cycles of our hospitals to support continuous improvement. For example, we've tested our mass transfusion protocol at one of our sites numerous times, which has led to an iterative improvement of this process, including the addition of blood runners. We have clear task delineation, and it's supported a shared mental model of this process. We also support the opening of new buildings and new spaces by identifying latent safety threats or space challenges before areas even open, or sometimes are even designed. For example, we were asked to evaluate the design and layout of rooms for an ED remodel. In the design, there were two types of rooms. Some had a head wall on the back and others on the side. These rooms were really put into this space without consideration of the teams working in the spaces by the architect. So the sim team set up similar spaces in our simulation center with both types of design, those with head walls at the back and those with head walls at the side of the room. And our team ran trauma and medical teams through critical patient scenarios in both spaces with a lengthy debrief about how they moved within the space. The teams universally found that head walls on the back of a room allowed much easier movement of equipment and people within the space. After the simulation, these plans were redrawn to maximize this design. We've run simulation through new hospitals to ensure processes, equipment, and spaces were ready for patient care. At one of our new hospital sites, we were able to run 28 process testing simulations before opening and identified over 200 latent safety threats. A majority of these were able to be mitigated prior to the opening. This integrated in situ program, our continuous process improvement, and space testing through simulation are fundamental to our high reliability journey. I'd like to turn it over to Lauren Knepper now, who's one of our site simulation education specialists, to talk about the work she's done to create a site-level patient safety partnership.
Thank you, Hannah. Hello, everyone. I'm Lauren Knepper, and I'm one of the site simulation educators on our team with a background in nursing, and have been with the team since 2021. We will definitely continue to talk a bit more about how translational simulation fits in at the site level. But first, I'd like to go back to our journey and discuss how what has been shared today touches each site. Initially at the site level, we wanted to engage site leaders and find a way to intertwine simulation into their cultures. We sought to show how we added value to each site and used translational simulation as a tool to help sites solve problems with processes and inform training objectives. A tool we used to accomplish these goals and inform stakeholders of our work were site steering committees. We also use these committees to grow interest and use of simulation at the sites, communicate metrics, and to inform leadership of any barriers discovered in simulation or related to implementation of simulation activities. As our team and programming expanded at the site level, we then had resources to grow the number of programs we offered, including educational as well as translational simulation programs. This also meant we began to see more and more trends with identified latent safety threats, both within translational simulation and across different groups during the same types of educational simulation. For example, at my site, when our programming revamped in 2021, when COVID was becoming a part of our everyday workflow, the first program we focused on were our mock codes. We established a monthly recurring code program for basic life support and for advanced cardiac life support, which were voluntary courses created to allow teammates from all different teams to come together, learn, and practice. One thing I noticed when running these codes were that many of our teammates did not ask for a stool and either climbed on the bed or stood on tiptoes to perform compressions. Many were unaware of the American Heart Association recommendations regarding stool use for CPR, and most did not know if the unit had a dedicated CPR stool or where it was located if they did. I was not sure what to do with this information at first, as there was no after-action report to write up and no specific stakeholders to pull in, as it seemed to span the entire facility. This is one of the first topics I brought forward to our patient safety manager on site. We had already developed a bit of a relationship, but I found myself across from her at her desk, frustrated with the knowledge gaps I was finding, and with the knowledge that no one was held accountable to necessarily review and follow up on latent safety threats in after-action reports. Our patient safety manager told me it pained her to hear this, but that patient safety is somewhat similar to simulation and that they were also a consulted department and did not necessarily own action items. As we sat across from one another discussing the importance of this work, I asked her what they do with true patient safety events. That quickly led us to our quality team. Our patient safety manager quickly added our quality director to a meeting, as their team is the team who owns corrective and preventative action plans and the action items within them. Together, we created a simulation core team committee that meets bi-monthly and has expanded upon our original goals of the Simulation Steering Committee. At this Simulation Core Team Committee meeting, I come together with the CNO and CMO, directors and other leadership, patient safety, quality, risk, and I'm always supported by my manager, director, and our medical director. We discuss wins and safety stories, any CAPAs opened with the genesis and simulation activities, any corrective action or preventative action or cause analyses with simulation as an action item, ongoing and recurring simulation programming, new simulation programs, and any after-action reports completed since our last meeting. We also host an open discussion at the end of the meeting where we can discuss other items previously discussed at steering committees, such as new ideas for simulation, barriers, and other things. It was at one of these meetings that we were able to further discuss the need for dedicated CPR stools for every unit, and it was made possible. We have also had countless productive conversations related to removing barriers, supporting in situ simulation participation, and new ideas for programs, or even using the same program for another group, to name a few benefits of this committee. I truly value these bi-monthly meetings and am so appreciative that there is support at the system level, but also that I've been able to take steps in my everyday work week to foster personal relationships with patient safety, risk, and quality teams at my site. Each site has their own unique relationship or partnership with these stakeholders, and I've only spoken about the relationship at one of our sites. Every culture and stakeholder group is different, and I don't believe it is a one-size-fits-all approach for building this relationship. For example, at another site within our system, simulation is included in their CAPA and patient safety steering committee meetings. The stakeholders at this site have found such value in what simulation brings to the table related to patient safety that our site educator there has dedicated time on the agenda to bring up similar information to what is discussed at my site during our simulation core team committee meetings. This partnership may look very different at every site, but we have found that most success comes from bidirectional feedback, engaged leaders, and the platform to show what simulation offers to the site. I discussed a couple of formal ways to help build partnerships with stakeholders like patient safety, but there are also some less formal things an educator can do at the site level to fortify these relationships. One thing all of our site educators try to do is attend our site's daily safety huddle for about 30 minutes in the morning. This helps us to identify opportunities for simulation throughout the hospital and to be in the know of any safety events we may already be working with a specific group on. For example, there was a safety event I heard about on Safety Huddle, and I was able to reach out to the manager of that department in real time and ask if we could meet regarding what happened. We were able to plan a process test and then education for her team informed by the findings from the process test. Another way in which we partner, as Kari alluded to, is supporting each other's professional week, and we often run fun events for the hospital during Patient Safety Week, such as Room of Errors, escape rooms, all the things Kari mentioned. And this is a fun opportunity to spend more time with our patient safety team and help show our teammates how we partner on site. Another way in which we partner is by inviting patient safety to our after action report meetings so they are aware of what we found in simulation. Sometimes this can be particularly beneficial if there's been a recent safety event related to our findings or if the leader is experiencing barriers related to the LSTs we identified. At my site, I also have planned monthly working meetings with my site patient safety manager and specialists. This time during lunch is really quite helpful in that our safety team can share about any recent events that occurred and that may benefit from simulation. I can also bring forward anything I've seen in simulation that may be something that they want to look into. This lunch has grown our personal as well as professional relationships and has resulted in new projects, clarification of action items, and new ideas for collaboration. For example, at one meeting, we discussed an opportunity related to documentation for sepsis. They were planning to reach out for a full simulation for a specific group, but I was able to let them know that we already planned on running a sepsis simulation later during that year for the same group. We're able to partner to assess objectives and switch it out with another topic that would be run sooner so that it could be facilitated in a timely manner. I'm very thankful to have the rich history and system support for partnership with patient safety and simulation, but I'm also thankful that these relationships can continue to be fostered at the site level. The evolution of our simulation-led committees and all that has been accomplished are proof of what this partnership can bring to a site and organization. We'd all also like to share a takeaway based on all of the information that we've shared today. So I'll start with mine. My takeaway would be to find a way to start building or to build upon the relationship between simulation and patient safety. It doesn't all have to happen at once, just find one way to start.
And I'll share my next. My takeaway is that you start small and begin to embed translational simulation into your program with defined opportunities for bidirectional feedback. We really did start running around, as Takira mentioned, with a mannequin and an in situ simulation across the board with a very small team, and that has grown into the program we talk about today.
I really feel like developing intentional, mutually beneficial relationships is such an important aspect of building any simulation program, but also building a safety-based simulation program. It kind of wraps into everything everyone is saying with these takeaways, but really be intentional about developing those relationships and again, making them bidirectional and mutually beneficial, that safety influences the work simulation does, and simulation can influence the work safety does. Really makes a rich, great relationship, and it only benefits our patients.
I would say recognizing the importance that work is imagined is not always work is done, and really involving your front lines to be involved, to share their insights, perspectives, and ideas and suggestions by the use of translational simulation. It really helps. It can help optimize processes, but it also can help identify opportunities for other learning or education. So yeah, that would be my takeaway.
My takeaway would be to ensure that you are baking in simulation very, very purposefully into your strategic plan for safety and quality. You need to call it out. You need to give it the light that it deserves and share the impact that it has in order to get us closer to zero harm.
Mine is understand and share your why. I've been doing this for a while in this organization, and not everybody comes to simulation and even sometimes to safety willingly or with arms wide open, and really understanding why we're doing it and how we can help, and being able to communicate that with our stakeholders has gone a long way in bringing people over to the sim side and helping them understand the benefits and what we can do with them, with that partnership and with that link to patient safety, being able, again, to keep our patients at the core and keeping them safe. So with that, we would like to thank you all so much for joining us today and for listening to our presentation.
I want to thank the team from Advocate of Health for sharing your experience with us here today, and to congratulate you too. I think what you have talked to us about today is really the future of both simulation and patient safety. We're in 2024. We are looking at the 25th anniversary of the publication of To Err is Human, and I'm sure many of you on this call will agree that we have not really made enough progress in making healthcare safer over those 25 years. And if we want to do that, we need to do things differently. And I think what the team at Advocate Health has demonstrated for us today is one way of trying to do things differently. So congratulations on your great work. I want to just quickly ask everyone, you shared your takeaways. Can we frame those in terms of, what is something that if you're on this call, you can go and do by next Monday? Anyone want to offer a suggestion?
Schedule a meeting with your patient safety friends or your simulation friends, depending on which group you're with. Plop something on the calendar and see what happens. Just start a discussion.
And introduce the idea of how do we use simulation to actually show us what those vulnerabilities are through the cause analysis program. I'm pretty sure most organizations have cause analysis programs underway. They're doing them in one way, shape, or form, but we forget that we can use simulation in the discovery process, not just as the end result for clinical competencies and things like that. They're very beneficial in helping us understand what those opportunities for improvement are as we're trying to develop what those action items should be.
I would add to do what Lauren talked about. I always found it helpful to go to safety huddles. If you have safety huddles, go see what you hear, look for ideas. Where can simulation plug in and approach it? Offer the opportunity. Hey, let's try something new and see if this works. So, and be excited.
And I think on that same vein, really digging into to find out where you can help. Find areas where people are having a problem, or ask them what's keeping them up at night, and see if you can solve that through simulation and translational work, because that really does kind of prove the value of the simulation program to teammates. The more you do, we found the more we do, the more we do. So people keep coming back for more. So get in there and help people solve their problems.
I think as we think about what you can do by next week, right? Start small. Don't try to boil the ocean at one time, right? So pick that one thing. I think the relationships are really important. And to DeKira's point, scheduling that meeting and just starting that discussion often is going to take more than one meeting. It's often going to take more than one conversation to be able to really get that off the ground and to help people understand what's possible. I also think having these examples, either examples that you have or ones that you've heard from others, and being able to share those and bring those back and help to connect the dots for the stakeholders that you do have, Those are just really important things to be focused on and getting people on board, because if you can get them at least their foot in the door, right, and you can get in there and do a sim and show them a little bit about what's possible, they will come back and they'll want more. So it's just a matter of getting their foot in the door, showing them, and keeping them there.
Thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope we accomplished our mission of giving you ideas for using simulation to improve patient safety. A big thanks again to the team at Advocate Health for sharing your experience and lessons learned, and for leaving us with some actions we can actually take by next Monday. If you have questions that have not been answered, please post them in the chat now and a member of our team will get back to you. Have a great rest of your day.